What's happening, YouTubers? Today another video, Xpro 2 for weddings and events again. This is a follow-up from the X-T2 because I had such a brilliant response on the X-T2 for weddings. So many fantastic emails, so many people contacting me via social media. So there's obviously a big market or a big interest in people swapping or swapped out already. I want to thank all the new subscribers. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for people genuinely interested in what I do, I suppose. A couple of apologies. So the first apology is the previous video auto-focusing on the Xpro 2 was crap. Sorry about that. My video skills are not fantastic, as you can probably tell from my videos. However, I'm currently using the X-T2 and the video shouldn't hunt as much. So I've probably just given away one little negative on the Xpro 2 there. And secondly, the video was quite long on the previous one. I'm not going to go into a 45-minute video today. I'm going to try and keep it down to about 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to crack on and I'm going to start with how lightweight is this camera. Wow. You think the X-T2 is light? This camera, without the battery grip obviously, I'm talking without the battery grip because obviously this doesn't have a battery grip, but it's just lovely. It's just such a nice camera to hold. It's got an awesome grip. Okay, so the grip on the camera, it's a lot better than the Xpro one. So the Xpro one was quite flat. This has got, you know, a few millimeters or centimeters really where you can hold onto the camera. But the ergonomics of the camera, I think because you've got everything to the one side in terms of your buttons, so you know, your layout, your play, your delete, your back button, you know, your control dial, your little joystick there. It just feels so nice to have everything on one side. Kind of wish the X-T2 had that actually, rather than having to go up to the corners for your play and stuff like that, and your trash can. Everything's on this camera is all on one side. And I can't explain how nice that is. Even your exposure compensation, your ISO dial, your shutter speed, everything's on one side. Both front and rear dials. It's just beautiful for that. This camera was designed for a photographer. I mean, it really was. This is a photographer's camera. And unless you've mucked about with a few cameras or had a few cameras in your past, I can't articulate that enough. I don't know how Fuji done it. I think they must have just pulled, well, I'm presuming they must have done, they must have just pulled people aside and said to them, you know, how do you want to improve on the Xpro 1? But I'm sure the Xpro 1 was designed with photographers in mind. And I know the X-T2 was, because they were asking the community a lot on what they wanted, and hell, they delivered on that. And they have delivered on this as well. So lightweight, ergonomics, just simply fantastic on this camera. Only thing I will mention is, I spoke about it in one of my previous videos a couple of months ago about the balance of lenses on the Xpro 2 versus the X-T2. This feels beautiful with your slightly smaller lenses, things like your 56mm, your 23mm, your 35mm, even probably up to your 16 to 55, this feels okay. I do, however, still state it does feel a little bit unbalanced with the 50 to 140. It's not really a major issue at all. I'm not going to make a thing about it. It really is not. I use this with a 50 to 140. It's fine. It really is fine. It just doesn't feel as good as the X-T2, but you kind of won't expect it to because the X-T2 has a slightly bigger grip. So I suppose it's logic, and I don't think this camera was designed necessarily for that style of photography, although it does it and it can do it really well. EVF. Love the EVF stroke OVF on this camera. It's just exquisite. It is fantastic. I'll be honest, I tend to use the EVF more than the OVF. And that's just a personal choice. I know loads of people that prefer the OVF, or they mainly use the OVF, and I totally get that, because when I do street photography, I like to use the OVF in this camera sometimes. Not always, but sometimes, just depending on the sort of shooting I'm doing. I like to see people entering the frame before they get into the frame that I'm going to click the shutter. So in that respect, it's awesome. The EVF on this is not as big as the XT2. So the XT2 EVF has got a 0.77 times magnification. This has got a 0.59 magnification. So what that means in real terms is, if you've never looked through an XT2, this is not a problem. It's not a problem. It's a brilliant EVF. However, if you've had an XT2 and you look through the EVF on the XT2, it's almost like you're looking through the looking glass, through a window. I mean, it's massive. I can't really explain it. It feels like, you know those gaming stations where you've got like 3 screens and you might have like a racing sim? It just feels like that. You can just see everything, and it's awesome for that. So this one's not as big in terms of magnification, but do not let that deter you or put you off. It hasn't put me off. It's just smaller, but if you've never used an XT2 or an XT1, you wouldn't know the difference, and it's not an issue. The LCD on the back of this is actually better than the XT2. So although the EVF internally is not as good, oh sorry, let me go back on that. It is as good, it's just not as big in terms of magnification. The EVF in both cameras are still exactly the same, over 2 million dots. So they're identical, just the magnification's a bit different. However, the LCD on the back of the X Pro 2 is a 2.6 million dot display versus the XT2, which is a 1040K. So there's quite a bit of difference there. And you do notice it. I've never really had a problem with the XT2, but this is just crisper. It's just nicer. Another positive for this camera is the AF tracking. Since the last update, the AF tracking on this, where you can choose your custom scenarios as well with your focus tracking, we've got scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I've done a lot of AF tracking with this as well. It did not miss a beat. I could not see a difference between this and the XT2 without the battery grip on the XT2, however. With the battery grip on the XT2 just turns into a rabid beast. That's the best way I can just explain it. It just turns into a freak. So it's good without the grip. Both of these are. Again, I'm comparing them because this doesn't have a grip, but they are very, very good. And I don't think I would have a problem shooting the XT2. In fact, I have shot the XT2 without the grip. But when you get used to it with the grip, you unleash the beast. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like having, I don't know, like a Lamborghini Murcielago, the top of the range, and then the XT2 is the top of the range, but one that's made for the Saudi Arabians, where it's just pimped to the max and it's just even better. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. I can't really articulate that any better. But the AF tracking and acquisition on this camera is also simply brilliant. So control dials. I know there's a lot of people that don't like the internal ISO where you have to pull it out and rotate it on the window. I don't get what the issue is. I just don't get the problem. It's not a problem to me. You just lift and twist. I mean, I can't see why that is an issue. I don't get it. It's not an issue for me. In fact, I love it. I love the look of it. I love the way that the amount of engineering and the attention to detail that has just gone into just making that simply pull out and lift. I mean, I just think that's awesome. I just think it's really, really cool. I love it. I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive. I really, really do. I think it's beautiful. I think it just adds the aesthetic design of the camera. People shoot in different ways, so if that does get in your way, then obviously it's going to be a negative. But I'm talking about my personal experiences, and I do not find that a negative. Another negative about this camera, and this time it breaks my heart, it also scratches quite easily. Don't know if you can see. How can I? So on this focusing barrel on the lens, you'll see there's some, if I just angle it to the light, I don't know if it's going to come out on camera, but can you see there's like a line that goes here through the middle of the focusing barrel or focusing part? That's scratched quite easily. Again, it must have rubbed on something in the camera bag. It's also, again, it's tiny, but you can't really see, I don't think, but there's a couple of little tiny little sort of tiny chips, or a chip on the camera here. The bottom of the camera, you can see a little mark there. And it takes me back to what I was saying about I expected it to happen because I don't wrap my stuff up in cotton wool. However, this has broken my heart to get it scratched. Again, I just thought it would be a little bit more robust. But I guess if you make a thing that looks that beautiful, you kind of take the good with the bad. And that's a bad thing, Fuji. Make your cameras not chip if it's possible. That's the X-T2 now and the X-Pro 2. You know, a couple of outings where they've been used a lot and they have got scratched or chipped. However, it probably is my fault because I do chuck them about. So, you know, I guess what do you expect, right? So, it is what it is. Cost versus full frame. We went into that with the X-T2. This is obviously cheaper than the X-T2. If you get a black version, it's considerably cheaper. I think you can pick them up for about 1100 quid, maybe even 1050. There's quite a big difference compared to full frame. And then again, we discussed things like lenses and stuff, and the Fuji glass is just simply fantastic. A lot cheaper than your Nikon or Canon or Sony equivalents, if you buy the branded stuff, that is. So on that note, thumbs up, awesome. Dynamic range, exactly the same as the X-T2, no difference. It's the same sensor, the same processing engine. So there you go. Watch the X-T2 video and you'll kind of get what I'm talking about on that. If you want to watch a 45-minute long video though, I hate to add. I have less negatives on this than I had with the X-T2. And that's just simply because I spoke about the freezing issue that I had with the X-T2. This did not freeze. This has never frozen up on me. It just hasn't. And I worked this camera really hard as well. It was I had my X-T2 as my A camera and this is my B camera, and I was swapping from one to the other. I wasn't deliberately using the X-T2 as the A camera. It sometimes just worked out like that because I had the battery grip on it. And it's quick, it's really, really fast, but when I needed to switch to the X-Pro 2, it didn't slow me down in the slightest. It's just a fantastic camera. I'm not a videographer. As you can probably tell by my videos, I don't spend hours editing them because I can't. I don't have the time, and I'm not that great, to be honest with you. But I do get it why the video is not great on this camera. Because this is a photographer's camera. But there are instances when you need to use a video camera, like when I needed to use it to record my X-T2 because I don't have like a GoPro or a specific cam to record these videos. So I do wish the video was better or as good as the X-T2. I'm not really bothered about 4K video, to be honest with you. Even if it just had like good 1080, I just find the focusing on this, I don't know why, every time I record video on this, it just seems to hunt. It doesn't matter what scenario I try, it's just not as good as the X-T2. I touched on this last time, so because this doesn't have a battery grip, it just means you'll be swapping out batteries more often. However, I didn't use this as much to burst shoot with the X-T2, so the batteries did last me pretty well. I probably got around the 450 to 400 shots per battery in this. So I was really, really happy with that. Can't really complain about it. As I said in my previous video, smaller camera means smaller batteries. It's just logical, and that's the way it has to be. It has to be, and I prefer it that way, so I don't have to lug around a monster with me. All in all, is the X Pro 2 a good camera for weddings and events? So I use this camera along my X-T2 for personal work. When I mean personal work, like how let me phrase that, how a lot of people use their cameras. When I talk about weddings and events, it's not me trying to big myself up, oh I do this and that. I'm just being honest, because some people want to use these in that field, and I use it, I'm fortunate enough to use these cameras in both fields, be it as an enthusiast, as a hobbyist, however, within a professional environment. Take that how you want to take that, but I'm talking about weddings and events that I earn a living from. These cameras are more than capable for probably more or less any type of shooting scenario. So be it street shooting, be it, I don't know, to some extent sports shooting. Obviously the glass isn't there compared to what the Canons and the Nikons have, but you've still got your 50-140s, you've still got the 200 to 600, or I can't even remember what that lens is, I'm not really interested in that lens, but they are capable of doing that. But these are also really capable cameras for shooting weddings and events, because the low light performance that I see from these cameras, for me, outdid my 5D Mark III. And I'm not shitting you, it did. In fact, my X-T1 noise was more or less pretty similar to my 5D Mark III. And I wish I started making YouTube videos before, when I had the 5D Mark III, because I would have compared X-T1 to 5D Mark III. The X-T2 and the X Pro 2 noise is pleasing noise. I can't really explain what I mean by that, but when you get noise on these cameras, it just looks like really fine grain. It doesn't look like really bad noise. And the 5D Mark III, if you pushed it, looked really bad noise. There was colour banding, and just a lot of purple pixels and green pixels. It just looks awful. It looked awful. These, I've pushed them to 12,800, which is really the maximum I need to shoot. And the 5D Mark III, 12,800 at the maximum. I had to import into DxO Pro Optics in that program and try and denoise it, because they just simply looked awful. I don't with these. I really don't with these. So if you do any kind of low light shooting, be it weddings, be it parties, be it theatre work, be it in nightclubs, be it in like music bands and stuff like that, I can bet my bottom dollar that this will be more than adequate enough. That's my personal opinion. If you do use these for those sort of events, comment, let me know, because I'm sure from the response I've had from the XT2, a lot of people want to know. A lot of people want to know. And I think it's a beautiful thing when we share these things with other people. So I encourage you, please comment, let people know how you use your X gear, X Pro 2, XT2, XT20s, anything going back to XT1s and the X-Trans 2 sensor. But I think these are very viable options for the Switch. Definitely love this camera. I like this camera more than my XT2. I'm sorry to say that. I just do. I prefer the look of this camera. I prefer the feel of this camera. I like the way that, in fact, a couple of scenarios happened. In fact, this happened quite a lot. At one of the weddings that I shot, I was getting people actually coming up to me and asking them to take their picture. Never used to get that on the in fact, I don't really get that on the XT2 actually. I didn't get it with the 5D Mark III. With the 5D Mark III, I got people shying away. I don't get that with the XT2, I have to be honest. They look at me more with intriguement, like, is that a film camera? Or, you know, that's an old retro camera. And I'll say, no, actually it's not, it's a digital camera. I should just tell them it is really, but I'll just tell them it's a digital camera and it's designed to be like that for particular reasons. But when they see me with the X Pro 2 around my neck, or holding it in the strap, whatever, they're so intrigued and they say, can you take my picture? And I think that's awesome, because if you're doing an event, you don't want people to shy away from you. You want to get some beautiful shots. So, talking about shots, I'm going to show you some shots from the X Pro 2 and the XT2 that I didn't get a chance to show you in the last video, because as so many people said, you didn't put no pictures on there. I know, because I was explaining to you, I was editing them and they were still in process. But I've processed more or less the majority of those pictures now. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video today, and I will leave you with some pictures, first of all from the X Pro 2 and some pictures from the XT2 from weddings and events. Take care guys, and I'll see you real soon. Cheers, bye.